and getting people comfortable with the idea that if they do decide to go into business with their spouse, like what is the expectation, and hopefully it doesn't create a divorce down the road. You know, that's nobody gets divorced in the process. So
then you can have more episodes, and when that happens, you do this.
There you go. Exactly. Welcome to another episode of Co-Founders. This is Alex Montrose, and we have Lisa Montrose.
Yeah.
All right.
Still my name hasn't changed.
Is that still your name? Okay, I just want to make sure. And we have two amazing guests. We have Tarl Yarber, Grace Yarber. They're well known in the industry here locally, do a ton of flips, and really well known in the real estate investment world. And I want to introduce you two and go ahead and let you guys kick it off, and then we'll get right into it.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, guys. Do you want to know who we are? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. Who are you guys? Who are you?
So I'm Tarl. This is my wife, Grace. We run a company called Fixated Real Estate, and we're based in the Seattle market. Years ago, we spent a ton of time doing nothing but fix and flip. And over the last 2 years, we've been doing mostly buy and hold and what's called a BRRRR strategy: buy it, rehab it, rent it, refinance, repeat, on mainly single family homes in the Pierce County and King County area of Washington. And we also run a real estate events business called Fixated On Real Estate, plus also the PNW Real Estate Expo, which is now the largest real estate investor conference on the West Coast. So
yeah, it's very cool. Very cool. So, for topic and conversation today, really want to get to the heart of what brought you guys together to do business, one, and two, kind of go into the dynamics of how you guys work well together, and are there challenges as you guys support the business as a couple?
Well, first off, what brought us together as a business partners is I met her at a party at one point years ago, and I saw her, and I'm like, man, I want to go into business with that shit.
Yeah. That's awesome. That was the first thing. That was the first thought. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna marry her.
No,
that was the first one.
That's something. I was thinking about one of those things at that time, but ultimately, Grace can tell the story better than me. But I was running my business, Fixated Real Estate, at that time. At that time, it was my business. Now it's our business. And she was working at a W-2 corporate level tech job that she really enjoyed. And we ended up getting married, and she was helping out with what she could, and I'll let her tell that story. And then over time, eventually got to a point where we reached a point in our lives where we said we just want to spend as much time with each other as possible. And we felt through a series of activities, which we can go into more detail, that the best thing to do is for Grace to quit her job and then join the team with Fixated. But I'll let her explain that a little bit better.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the job that I did. I was working for a software company that specialized in software solutions for logistics industry. I really enjoyed it, and Tarl was already in real estate investment business. I was very active in our meetups that we were putting together and networking with people. I used to get the question from people all the time. They say, okay, so you're a wife of Tarl's, when are you quitting your W-2 job? So I find it very fascinating because I found that there's so many unhappy people having W-2 job. It was like a curse. And I was the anomaly. I'm like, well, I'm actually enjoying, I love what I do, and I have no intention of quitting my job. And I was part-time managing our rentals at that time. So my hands were full with a lot of activities, and I had no intention until I found that us as a business partners at that time. I was working my regular job, doing part-time rentals, Tarl's running events business and the construction and rehab, until we we sat down and evaluated. We spending maybe 2-3 hours a day, and that was not what we signed up for.
Maybe 2 hours a day together late at night. That would maybe watch TV or talk and eat dinner, and then we'd both go back to our other corners of the house and work again. And we weren't spending any real time together. And that was like a big issue for us. Big wake up call. Because if you asked either one of us, this is in 2017, if you asked either one of us during that time period, what did we want more than anything in our life? And that was one thing. We both would answer separately. We just want to be together all the time. And we weren't doing that. She was going her direction in her corporate job. I'm going this direction in real estate and becoming like all famous.
So we were drifting apart as a couple. That what we came together to do as a married couple, that we actually like spending time together. And that was not the case at all. So we said, okay, there has to be something to change.
Yes.
And I should show something who has made a big impact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big Pat.
That's gonna show up.
Awesome.
This is Ash Duane.
There you go. Fuck out. I like it.
I went to an event with Thatch in the end of 2017, and he basically said something that changed our lives forever, which was most people take their business and everything and they design their entire life around their business, and whatever they have left over, or their job, whatever they have left over, they take their personal life and put it into that. He's like, why don't you plan out what your life is and what kind of life you actually want to live and how you want to live it, and then make your business fit that. And it was like, what? You could do that? And so Grace and I then spent the next few weekends, 3-4 weekends in a row at the end of 2017, mapping out exactly what we wanted our life to be like together as a family first, and how we wanted to actually earn our income and live. And then we looked at that list, and the only thing that made sense at that time was for Grace to quit her job and go full time with us so that we can be together all the time. And that led to us traveling 102 days in 2018, 127 days together in 2019. And we've been together pretty much every single day in those 2-year periods, all the way up to now, too, except for like a 3-week period where she went and traveled Europe with her mom without me. But the rest of the time, we're side by side all the time.
Wow. Yeah,
So like all of it concludes to, for us, was even though we liked the jobs, the career that we had, what the priority was is being together, and that overtook everything that allowed us and forced us to change it. So to the listeners, maybe some couples that work together, or maybe partners that they work together, it's a very, very crucial thing to find out, like, what is the top priority thing? What are you really looking for? What is your why versus going the other way around?
Yeah.
And that really helped us a lot.
Awesome. So now you guys have been doing this about 2 years all in together is what it sounds like, right?
All the 2 full years, yeah.
Okay. So is it everything you dreamed it would be, being together all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're also alluding to, do we ever have disagreements?
Well, that's my next question is, because Alex and I are together all the time as well. Like it's, we are at the house together, we're at work together. I mean, it's an all the time thing. And so there's of course going to be conflict that comes up. So what types of things do you guys deal with, and how do you handle it?
That's very, very good. The one thing that I came into the business, I said, when I was planning my exit strategy from even the situation with the full-time job that I had in the past, I said, I'm not going to be working for Tarl. I'm not going to be working, for my spouse. We will work together. We will find the ways. And the most important big first step that we did when we planned during those weekends, what is our exit strategy, what we want, it was like determining what is the line that I will be responsible for in a business. And that came in to be property management, everything that comes to after rehab is done. When we're ready to rent out, is full responsibility of Grace. And then when it comes everything from acquisition and rehab, it's Tarl. So it was a big division. So we can talk as a business partners, but we don't overlap. We can ask for advice. So that was a very, very big, important thing.
Yeah, it's really those lanes. We kind of run our business this way, where it's like, who owns that lane ultimately? And if in this example, I don't really ask Grace's advice so much on properties we're going to purchase and what we're going to do to them. And she doesn't ask my advice on, renting them out, property management, or anything like that, and what she's renting them out for, or any of the issues. I actually honestly don't even ever want to know about any of the issues that are happening on that side. But she can, I like to joke, but she can literally burn all those houses down, and that's her decision because that's her lane, right? And she'll never do that. At least, right? Okay, just make sure.
No burning.
It's like I can buy whatever I think is necessary because the acquisitions is on our end. So, and it works well for us, so we don't step over that lane. She might help at times on the acquisition, construction, rehab stuff, and I might help at times on the property management and stuff. But she's the boss on that side. I'm the boss on that side, on this side, and it's however the other person wants to run it. Basically.
Is that something you defined up front, or is that something you discovered up front?
Yeah.
There was some that the discoveries as well. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, big thing was Grace was very, very clear. She was not coming to work for me. So very clear. So we had to create a lane right away that she 100% owned. But in reality, one of the challenges is that when you have a spouse that's coming into a business that they haven't lived and breathed for as many years as me and my team has, because we had staff, we had people, right? So this was not an issue for us internally. This is something that we needed to make sure wasn't going to be an issue. Which, how do you have a spouse come in and all of a sudden,
Not cause issue.
I'm the owner's wife. I own half the company. I'm going to tell you what to do, that kind of thing. And Grace is not that person, luckily. But there's that fear sometimes from staff and people, whatever. It's like when Grace didn't have all the real estate education, right? And how is she going to jump in and all of a sudden run half the company, right? That didn't make sense. So it was really important to have, Grace's mentality was she understood that, and she wasn't going to let her ego get in the way or anything of the capacity of that aspect, and start stepping on other people's lanes inside the company too. And that's a huge, huge thing that has to happen, or you create animosity, issues, resentment, confusion, all within the company, especially if you have already employees and everything lined out.
I think one of the things we've sort of discovered along those same lines is that it's because your team is looking to you and they're judging sort of on your relationship and how are you guys handling things. So, we've sort of handled the business the same way as we do our kids. If we ever don't 100% agree on something, we don't disagree in front of our team. Like, that's a conversation behind doors. And that's something we've done with our kids as well, is I will never contradict Alex. If something's happening, even if I don't agree with him in that moment with the kids, I won't jump in and say anything. That's a conversation for later, and he does the same. And our team is sort of like our extended family. So we've done that as well, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
That's a very good lesson, yeah.
I think that's something I need to work better on. But
Tarl likes to voice it.
I voice it.
It is how it is now.
My challenge, I voice it to everybody though. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Grace or somebody else on their team, and the team's allowed to do that too, and Grace is allowed to do that. So it's kind of, I'm a little bit more voicing, but it's, despite she's my spouse and stuff, but there's been plenty of times I didn't have a team meeting, like in the meetings, I'm like, no, you're not my spouse right now. You're my business partner. Like that kind of mentality. Like a big thing that's in our team is that we're all, even though we're husband and wife and stuff, everybody in the team, no matter who they are, is allowed to argue and make, basically state what they believe, even if they don't believe with what you're saying. And so even if I say, hey, this is something we're going to go do, every person on the team can challenge me on that. And that's totally fine and argue back, just like I'll challenge them. And there's been times being married where it's like, we're on the table and we're challenging things. And Grace says something, I'm like, I don't agree with that. Like, and I'll just be right there in front of everybody. And I might be a little bit more aggressive on that than Grace might, but she'll do it too. I just think I do it more. And then and at that moment, like, she's not my spouse, she's my business partner. And it's having that line. And I know that we've done a pretty fair, decent job in our. And we
keep learning each time in different situations to be like, hey, I'm talking to you as a business partner right now. And like, we even use the phrases sometimes if we call each other during the day. I would be in the middle of something. I'm like, what do you want? I'm calling as a husband. Can we have a talk? Like, okay, I have to transform my head, but like it could be like in the middle of something. So it's very important to us. It works when we can divide that decision. Say, I'm calling you as a wife, or like, hey, can I talk to you as a husband versus business partner?
Yeah, and turn it off at night too, where we can tell each other, it's like, hey, we're husband and wife now. Like, no more business talk. And so I'm
faulted that like I would start talking and be like, hey, remember, no business talk.
Yeah, we go through that same challenge. It only lasts about 15, 20 minutes before something slips up, and now we're talking about about business again. So.
Well, and the hard part is, early on, I think I was much more, we've been in business together for 3.5, almost 4 years. Yeah. As this company. And I think one of the challenges I had early on is I really wanted there to be a clear distinction between family time and business time. And the reality is, like, we're both very passionate about both of those things, and they do overlap because they integrate. Our family's funded by our business, and we've learned things in our business that have translated into how we parent. And so there's you start to learn, I think there's not a clear distinction, and it's very important to have times when you say, okay, today's not business. And we totally slip. Like Saturdays for us are supposed to be 100%, like from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, there is not supposed to be any Moncourt talk. And we slip all day long because one of us will check our emails and we're like, oh, did you see that email from so-and-so? And I'm like, no business. But we've gotten better about it. And I think we've gotten more okay that the two are going to meld because they're so integrated.
Yeah.
Part of who you guys are.
Versus resisting, saying, hey, it's a challenge, we're not gonna do it, versus like, hey, it becomes like a game. It's like, so what, right? You read email here or there on your day that's supposed to be spouses.
I think the big thing is knowing that we're husband and wife first, business partners.
Yeah, exactly.
And keeping that in alignment with what the family goals are and family core values are and your own belief. And when we've found ourselves at times to sometimes like that slips where we sometimes forget, like, oh shit, that's right, you're my wife. So, and it's really important to keep that in mind. Even if the other person might do something that upsets you at that moment, carrying that over into the relationship is what I think dooms a lot of relationships that are in business with each other.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Carrying that, I mean, we've actually made it a kind of like a somewhat of a hard rule that if there is a disagreement, if we go to bed, we have to resolve that conflict before the next day, right? Because you don't want to go to bed with that. And God forbid, it's always about me because I had a heart attack already. So if I have another one and then we didn't get to resolve that, then she gets to live with all that pain and suffering for all the years. So no, but in all seriousness, it's so important to resolve that conflict and not let it carry over, and as well as with our team too. I think we've been really clear on not letting that, because we learned some lessons early on in our business where we had team members that were harboring things that we had no clue about for like a year and a half until there was a conversation that drew it out. We're like, goodness, that happened like a year ago, and we had no clue because we just keep moving. We don't stop, and it shed some light on how important it is to really focus on, checking in on a normal basis, making sure that there's nothing that's hasn't been unresolved, and then keep moving, right? Versus making assumptions that things are okay when they're not, right? So that's been a big lesson.
And those build up. I think we've had a couple of our team members that we sort of got blindsided by some things in that respect. And so, we were very open with our team of like, you have to talk to us. You have to tell us if something's going on. It can be resolved, but you have to be honest and straightforward. And I think we're pretty approachable with that.
It's almost like the key to success in business and marriage is just open communication.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Life in general. I think you can say that with like anything.
Be open to yourself and others as well. Like one of things, like to piggyback on what you guys mentioned, we recently began having our weekly meetings that has been very, very already showing a lot of good signs that will be beneficial. We broke into different categories, and for us as a spouse / business partners, we like intermix it, but in different categories like health, like relationships, our marriage, our business, our finances, different categories, and say, hey, what I am right now, am I happy? Like what things could I do differently? Like what do I envision? Like, and compared to your vision board. And then we have every Saturday morning meetings and going over each of those categories. How did they go this week? I said, hey, I'm gonna work out 3 times, 3 times this week. I'm like, oh, I failed it. Like, okay, why did I fail? And without being like a very critical of yourself, just really evaluating and being in touch and having that open conversation, and you create that environment.
Yeah, the big thing is spending that time every week reevaluating the previous week, so that what kind of changes are you going to make going into the following week?
Yeah.
And we try to do that together. We do that every Saturday now to go over in each one of those segments. And if there was a couple weeks ago where something happened in our marriage side where we had to discuss, and so we did that on Saturday, saying, hey, I'm happy with everything here, but this situation happened between us and our marriage that we need to have. If it wasn't like fully resolved, we need to resolve it that time. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing in business, finance, everything, health, wealth, everything. And what are we going to make differences so the next week, so we don't repeat this again, or what adjustments are we going to make. And that's been something that has been really helping us a ton, is that constant like touch and base, like where are we now? And because people make these huge goals, these huge plans at the beginning of every year or whatever it might be, or month or
And
everything.
And
then they like put them aside and they just go back to their thing, and then they dust them off hopefully every couple of months at least, and see where they're at. But most people never look at them again. So
And it's a good point. I was actually going to ask you, what are the intervals for checking, kind of where you're at? I like that weekly kind of touch point, because I think a lot of times, that's something that we probably, even for us, we probably don't even check in on a weekly. It's more like monthly or, around that time frame.
Yeah.
But a lot of things happen in a month that can really start to deteriorate, whether it's business, under the whole focus on communicating effectively, right? So that weekly touch points is really huge.
it could be a 30-minute thing where like you on your own need to write your own stuff out, say, okay, where am I at in these areas? But then as a together thing, it could be a 30-minute little sit
Like
down.
a summary, sit down,
Summarizing,
and
like,
read what
hey,
you
here's
wrote.
and then you have an accountability partner in your spouse.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Something that you have an issue with them, that's more reason to bring it up, because
For sure.
it forces you to do that.
And
Yeah.
like in our relationship, Tarl's more open and he might bring up things much faster. I might keep up a day or two if something is not right. So by having those weekly meetings, he seems to be like opening a floor for me. It'll be like, hey, this is the time to actually bring up. It's like looking objectively as a meeting. It's okay to discuss those things. It's like, hey, I'm not too happy in this thing. Maybe, so that it really helps for my personality. Not to be like forced, like, oh, I really want to talk to him, and I just keep postponing maybe the later times, right?
That's really insightful, and thanks for sharing that. I think what I took away from that, and is something that you and I probably on a weekly basis more than letting it kind of per month or whatever the case is. I think that's critical, right?
And I think the important thing with that, and you guys said it, is that it doesn't have to be, you didn't say these words, I'm putting these words in your mouth, but it doesn't have to be a production.
Yeah.
Like it's 20 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be this, because I think people hesitate to do stuff along those types of lines, is because they feel like it has to be this well thought out hour-long meeting. And they get ready to get ready instead of just
The important part though is it's dedicated time, meaning like it can't be while you're doing dishes and you're writing stuff and playing with the kid, like you're just talking over stuff. It has to be like you sit, even if it's a 20-minute focused on each other, sit down. That's all you're doing in that time period. Right. That's the key, right? In our opinion. Yeah, for sure. Because it's you're back to other stuff that nobody's taking it seriously, and you're like, whatever. And then all of a sudden, it just becomes something you just don't do anymore.
Yeah, big about calendar event, beeps, like it's a calendar event, repeat it every Saturday. That's it. We know what to do.
Yeah, no, it's insightful. So we're getting kind of close to the end here, and I want to make sure, for our audience and those that are looking to get into business and or already are in business, and so this are kind of our optimizer kind of topic or portion of the episode. So what would you like to share with kind of just a quick hit, something that somebody can implement practically into their lives, whether in business or personally, that would be really effective, whether around time management, being more productive, and so on?
Excellent question. This is actually something that Grace and I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do better. I can't help but think that when you have a lot of, when you have a lot of shit to do, it's very, very easy to just pile it up or get overwhelmed or like think. I don't know if you guys were procrastinators in school or anything like that, and you waited till if your homework's due on Friday, you do it on Thursday night at like midnight. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs are that way. And Lisa, it does seem like you're like, no, you're an A student that did all your stuff on.
She was the A student. I was
an A student, but I laugh because you say if you had a project due on Friday, you did it at midnight on Thursday. I did it at 6 a.m. on Friday. Like I would put it off till the very last possible
and she still
second.
does.
I still do. And unfortunately,
but surprisingly, like she pulls it off every time.
It works. I always got A's on tests. I always got A's on my papers. We took the sommelier class. Alex studied for like a month and a half beforehand, and I showed up to the class and passed. So I wish it didn't work for me.
That's not fair. They called her name, right? We got the master.
Well, he passed too. I didn't say he didn't, but
so they call her name, and I'm thinking, come on. Like, here I am, I took like almost 2 months to study for this thing. She studied for about a week and a half. They call her name, and I'm like, if I don't pass, and she freaking passes, like, this is not going to be good. but so we both passed. We ended up both passing. So it was cool. But anyhow, let's get back to kind of you. Yeah.
So you both master sommeliers?
On the beginner, we hit the beginner course because that was kind of like a bucket list for me, and I was like, well, let's both do it together. It gives us something to kind of study towards. And so, yes.
Looking forward to that invitation to do wine tasting.
Oh, we love it.
We won't. We don't turn down wine.
Yep, never.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think most entrepreneurs, like, by the way, when somebody, so I was going to say procrastinator, when somebody says like, oh, I work better under pressure, that's a procrastinator's like justification to live.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, yeah, we all do, right? And ultimately, most entrepreneurs and a lot of people that I've seen, like even us included, you live and die by task lists, and you just keep doing stuff, or you can get overwhelmed by task lists where you're like, I'm going to complete these 67 things today because they need to get done on my task list. Versus, realistically, you might only get 3 or 4 important things done if you're lucky. Maybe 1 important thing done in a day, and the rest of it's just busy shit. So what Grace and I have spent a lot of time working on over the last 2 years, basically, is something that I'm sure previous guests have said, which is time blocking for sure. And secondly, you really like it's setting up their time in your schedule, saying I'm going to work on this thing during this time, this thing on that time. And then the other part is the Pomodoro technique, which is actually setting a timer to it. And to where you only focus on one thing during that time period. It's either a 20-minute timer, 40-minute timer, whatever it is, and everything is off, like your cell phone, everything, unless that is your timer, so play on your cell phone for 40 minutes. But it's 100% focus on one task, and that's it for that time period. And what we found, though, is that after that, you take that time and you focus on it for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, you can take a little break, and you complete so much on that task, and maybe you're not done with the task, right? Maybe you just only got like part of it done, but if that was the only time you had for it, you set it aside and you have that time block again a day or two later, and it's transformed us like productivity-wise to get a massive amount of things done in a short period of time because we're chunking it down in these little sections of focused time, which, for us, a lot of shiny pennies everywhere. We can get distracted so fast. And it's like force. No, I only got 16 more minutes on my timer, and then I can be distracted, right? And so
reduce anxiety and like the stress and like, that's all I'm focusing. It really helps on your psyche as well. And it happens sometimes because Tarl's office downstairs at our home, my office upstairs. Sometimes we be like, hey, I have a question for you. And he's like, nope, I'm on my timer. See you later.
It's her yelling at me saying, I'm on my timer, leave me alone. So
like really respect, like on a timer, like no conversation happens. Even somebody comes in or somebody calls.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then the other aspect too is part of being a recovering procrastinator is it's better to do a little bit now than a lot later. And I found that's been changing my do you guys follow the disc profile and stuff at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an IS, right? So I have a bit of a higher S. And for me, when I don't have some sort of like, I have all this stuff hanging over me, like procrastination, it builds up a lot of stress within inside me because it's not structured out. And for years, I've always done that in my business. And then I would just like be like Yuli said, just bang it out like the day of or the day before, or roll in like it's nothing, right? And
you're capable of that, but then like at the end of it, like you said, there's stresses.
Right? So much stress.
Yeah. If you can do 10 minutes, even if like I have to make, because of our events business, I have to make all these stupid ass PowerPoints these days, and I hate it. But if I spend 10 minutes on the PowerPoint, even though if it's not due for 3 weeks for a presentation we got to do, 10 minutes today, just like setting it up a little bit and setting it aside, that reduces my stress dramatically, makes it way easier when I finally get to it. And that's changed my productivity as well. Even if it's just 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it's better than putting it off till later, right? So
yeah.
Awesome.
And it frees up your mind space. I think that's the biggest thing, is that like, even if you don't think you have stress over something, it's lurking if you have this task list of stuff that you have to do. Yeah. At least that's for me as a chronic procrastinator. I don't even say I'm recovering. I gave up a long time ago, but like, I mean, I'd like to say recovering, but
that's who you are.
That's just how I operate.
Are you guys licensed real estate agents?
She
I
is.
still am.
I'm inactive.
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, that makes more sense now. So
Yeah.
because almost all real estate agents are the biggest procrastinators ever. So
Yes. Yeah.
just facts. So name two that aren't, right? Like that's what I want to know. So anyways, not to throw all your audience under the bus.
I don't think nobody would take offense.
No.
Another issue. I love this topic. Another issue is task switching, which is what can mess a lot of people up. And like in our business, we run construction, we run acquisitions, we have portfolios that we deal with. We have our events business and stuff. We have joint ventures. We have we have actually a CRM business too, like all this stuff. And if you try to do all those things in one day, switching tasks all over the place, you never get anything done.
Yeah.
So it's gotten to a point too where I'll time block days. Like this day, I only deal with like our investment properties and what's going on with it. This day, I only deal with the event stuff and what's going on with it. This day, so that way there's not all this tax shifting all over the place. And at least for me, that's just
because those transitions really creates not productivity, right?
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know what else, Tarl, you should do? Because this works for me. I'm also one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. Usually it's internal and other people don't know we're in a competition. But I usually win. I don't ever let them know. But I turn stuff into a competition and that helps me get through stuff. So like everything's a game for me. Like I wake up every day to like 150 tasks and my game is to get it down to less than 50 within an hour. And so it's just a game. And anytime I go back to my computer, like if I'm away from my computer for an hour, I have 50 to 80 emails that I have to read. And then I'm like, okay, game on. How quickly can I get through this and get things done? So that's helped me with not procrastinating and also just being more productive. It's my whole day is a game. Like it's a game of how quick I can get my daughter to school and it's a game of how quick I can get to the office. But I'm the only one playing, so I have a good chance of winning.
You're always the winner.
I'm always the winner.
Mentality.
Grace can relate to you on that on a lot of levels. I know we're motivated and I tell her a competition aspect either with me or somebody else and she will just,
I will not turn it off.
she won't turn off.
It's game on, right?
Well,
So
thank you
awesome.
so much to the both of you for coming on. I know we've been trying to get a hold of you guys. You guys have been busy traveling and doing some amazing things. So we appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on and
Awesome. And yeah, we totally appreciate you guys being here and sharing all of your insight. And it's nice to get to know both of you on a different level as well. And to our audience, thanks for joining. And we'll see you next time on Co-Founders.
Thank you. And we'll have to, let's make sure to get together, guys. If you're open, we'll crack some wine open and make it a night. So,
Well,
Make it
love
happen.
that. Yeah. Let's do this.
all right.
Awesome.
All right,
See you
guys.
later.